Hi everyone, I'm Miss Amy. Thank you for joining me today for another fun lesson. I hope you're ready to learn. So for today's lesson, we are going to talk about early European exploration. Before we begin our lesson, we are going to set a learning target. So by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to say, I can describe the age of exploration and identify the routes and contributions. So with European exploration, it all began with something that is called the Age of Exploration. So this is from the early 1400s to the 1600s. So during this time, Europeans were searching for new routes and they were settling on new continents. So they were really trying to expand their leadership, their goals. So during this, countries were competing with each other to discover new land. They wanted to find new trade routes. And they wanted to discover riches. So they were really competing with each other to kind of be the strongest, most powerful nations. So they also wanted to spread Christianity to other cultures that lived in different countries and different continents all throughout the world. So Christianity is their religion. So they wanted to teach other people of the world about their religion. So continuing with the age of exploration, we have something called the Columbian Exchange. So that's a term that's used to describe the exchange of disease, foods, and crops and beliefs between the natives and the European explorers and the settlers. So that kind of all began when Christopher Columbus arrived in the New World in 1492. So when the Europeans came, obviously they brought a lot of disease and a lot of natives became sick. But also the Native Americans shared food with them. They showed the Europeans how to hunt. They showed them how to grow crops. And the Native Americans and the Europeans also tried sharing their beliefs with one another. An important person during this time is Henry the Navigator. So Henry the Navigator is Prince Henry of Portugal. So he planned and he funded a lot of different expeditions. So his goal was to claim land for Portugal. He wanted to find gold and silver and also to spread Christianity, which is their religion. He also encouraged people to explore the world. So this really kind of helped start the age of exploration. So Henry the Navigator sponsored an expedition from Portugal to the West African coast in 1441. So this expedition was they kind of traveled down and they went on the western coast of Africa. And this was really the first time that this has been done. So that's why it's so significant. So the purpose of this expedition was to expand the trade routes, to find gold and different spices. So the voyage expanded Europe's knowledge of the world. So they were able to go down that western coast of Africa and kind of curve back up. And he also began the School of Navigation in Portugal. So this helped inspire future explorers, and he encouraged people to explore and to learn more about their world. So that's why Henry the Navigator was such an important part of this early exploration. Christopher Columbus is another important European explorer to kind of help start this exploration. So Columbus was an Italian geography student. So he approached Queen Isabella of Spain about funding a voyage. So Columbus wanted to find a new route to India. So a lot of explorers were trying to go to India because India had a lot of gold, fabrics, teas, and spices. So he wanted to find a different way to get there. So Columbus sailed west. The other explorers were sailing east and they were going south around the African coast. So his idea was that he would find a quicker route by traveling a different way to India. Christopher Columbus left Spain in August of 1492. And 2 months later, on October 12th, 1492, he arrived in the Bahamas. So Columbus thought he was in India when he arrived. So he referred to the natives as Indians. So he was mistaken about the actual size of the earth. So he thought he was actually in India, but he was in the Bahamas. So at first, when Columbus arrived in the New World, the natives welcomed Columbus and his crew. Columbus took gold, plants, and birds, and he sailed with those back to Spain to show them to the queen. Soon, disease spread because there was a lot of disease in Europe, and the natives didn't have a strong immune system because they were not exposed to these diseases before. So there was a lot of disease that spread throughout the Native American tribes, and many of them died. Over the course of his journeys, Columbus took 500 slaves back to Queen Isabella in Spain. So in total, Columbus made 4 trips from Spain to the Americas. So in addition to natives being taken and returned to Spain as slaves, there was also a lot of disease. So this really impacted the natives that were living there very negatively. And next, we're going to learn about Ferdinand Magellan. So Magellan was a Portuguese explorer. He led an expedition in 1519 to the East Indies, which would go across the Pacific Ocean. So this opened up a new trade route. So he took a different journey than other navigators were taking. So he was the first European to sail to Asia via the Pacific Ocean. So he took a different path. He found a new trade route. Magellan's expedition circumnavigated the world. So that means they sailed around the world on their expedition. And sadly, in 1521, Magellan died. He was shot in the leg by a poison arrow before his expedition was finished. So his crew continued on the voyage without him. So they completed Magellan's expedition without him. All right, let's test your knowledge. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to tell me if those are true or false. Question 1, Henry the Navigator inspired the age of exploration. True or false? That is true. Henry the Navigator was from Portugal, so he's Prince Henry. So he inspired people, he encouraged people to start exploring the world, and he also started a school of navigation. Question 2, Columbus's expedition to the Americas greatly benefited the natives. True or false? False. So there at first they traded with each other and they kind of had benefits, but overall it was not beneficial at all. Disease spread. A lot of natives were killed. They were taken to be slaves. So this was a very negative effect, negative impact on them. And finally, Magellan's expedition traveled to America. True or false? This is false. So Magellan's purpose was to travel to the Indies. He did not plan on traveling to the Americas. Thank you so much for learning with me today. I hope you were able to learn more about early European exploration and the impact that 3 of those explorers had on the world. I'm your teacher, Miss Amy. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye.